Hey everybody, welcome back to Example of Play. In this video, I'm going to continue my series on Eve Frontier, playing through this first publicly showable build of the game and working through some early game stuff here. In the last video, I finished the tutorial, the in-game tutorial, which kind of stepped you through building some basic buildings, and then sent us on our first warp jump to another system. And now we are here. I forgot to bring anything with me, so I've got pretty much an empty inventory. I've got a mining laser, I've got a half a tank of fuel, and we're going to reestablish in this system and then expand and start building some new stuff. So let's get started. Okay, so in this video, the goal is going to be to kind of reestablish in this new system and then work on building some more advanced structures and get kind of a more permanent base going versus the kind of just ad hoc throwing down some refiners and storage here and there that we did in the previous two videos. And then if we're able to build some of those higher level structures, we'll be able to get some more fittings. With my first goal, I want to see if I can get an expanded storage for my ship here, because we're still rolling with 520 cubic meters of space, which is not a whole lot. Makes for a lot of trips. If we can expand that so we can haul more, then we can move more stuff at a time, and of course go exponentially from there, hopefully, and get bigger and better. But before we do anything, I'm going to hit B to open the build menu here. So there's several tabs down here. You might have noticed there's industry, storage, gates, defense, hangars, and miscellaneous, which is kind of like walls and decorative stuff there. But there's in the core group, we've built everything so far except for the network node. And so if we look at that, it establishes our base with a network node. It stabilizes and fuels other structures in its range, but it has to be placed at an unclaimed L point. And then once it's built, that becomes your home base. So this is kind of what you need to mark down a spot as yours. And then at that spot, you can start building these more advanced structures. Because if we look on these, it says placement unrestricted. All these basic buildings are unrestricted. You can put these anywhere in space you want. The network node has to be put at an L point. And then all the other buildings have to be put at a network node. So basically, to build anything more advanced than the core stuff, the just kind of basic refining and printing that we've done so far, we'll need to establish a base at an L point. So if we go look at, not the big map, if we look at the local map of the system, F3 to open that, we'll see there's a bunch of L points. So they're these kind of symbol, little square thing. And that these are all L points. So these are places you can establish your base, and every star has quite a few of them. So there's plenty of room to go around right now. Could be later on that these get more competitive depending on the system and what's there. But right now, I haven't jumped any of these yet. So let's go ahead and jump to one. Where would we like to go? This is going to be kind of semi-permanent. So I'm thinking in the middle, probably better than on the outside. So out here, there are a lot of things out here kind of popping around before we choose, but these are all moons. One carbon field there. So probably be more fuel efficient to stake our claim here in the center of this solar system, and then we'll be close to most of these objects, not have to jump out. Now, of course, if we do look at the big map, we can see for every system like that I'm looking at that has, looks like a couple dozen L points to choose from, there are literally tens of thousands of stars out there, all with their own L points. So you can establish yourself wherever you want eventually. And of course, you might not, the first base you build is not going to be your last base. But for our purposes today, we will choose a point here close to the middle. And then I need to be able to kind of remember which one it is. Well, once we build stuff there, I guess it'll be easy to know. But how about we'll go to P2L4 right here, jump to it, and see, I don't know if there'll be anything there or if it's just an empty point in space. So Lagrange points is what the L means. Is so in real life physics, if you've played Kerbal Space Program or some games, you might be familiar. It's kind of a point in space where gravity, there's points of gravity, kind of makes it easy to turn and maneuver at those points in space because gravity is kind of like zeroed out by different bodies. Not that I know what I'm talking about, just the very basic idea of a Lagrange point. All right, so we're here. We'll look around on the F2 for the tactical view to look around locally. All right, there's nothing here. Just me all by my lonesome self out here in the stars. So I'm free to kind of just build whatever I want here. And then, of course, we don't have any resources because I jumped away. I forgot to load resources. You be smarter than me and bring some stuff with you. But to build the network node, we're going to need 10 units of carbon weave, 10 printed circuits, and 10 thermal composites. So we're going to need to get some mining done, get a basic base going here. Kind of all the same stuff I had before, but in this new system. And of course, you probably could build this in the old system too, but we're going to pretend we're somewhere new and fresh where there's more to discover. So I'm going to pause here and go do some basic mining and get my base up and going, and then we'll look at actually building those components, what we need to do to get that going, and then get our network node constructed. Okay, so a few minutes have passed. I've zipped around, gathered some resources, and I've kind of got my base going here at my L point. So I've reestablished all the buildings I had before and then some. At this point, probably a good idea. You'll want to build multiples of refineries, multiple printers, and then I built multiple storages and then a refuge. And one good thing you can do if you have multiple storage units in the same place is that they are connected if they're local to each other, so you can like move stuff directly between them and not back to your ship back and forth. But you still, at least for now, have to move things to your ship to then move them to a refinery or to a printer. But at least you can shift them around between storage. One thing I like to do here, I kind of split my storage units up to where like this one is just going to contain raw ore that I've mined. This one's going to contain things I've refined, so like silicates and carbonicus materials. And then this one I'm going to put like manufactured products, so the higher end items stick in there if I don't need them on my ship. Now to build our network node, that's our next step. We've got all the core buildings built. To build our network node so that we can then move up to the higher tier of buildings, we're going to need to refine or manufacture three things: carbon weave, printed circuits, and thermal composites. We need 10 of each of those, and then luckily we can make all of those things from our portable printer. So this is kind of our choke point. We have to do this before we can bump up to unlock more stuff to build and create. And then fortunately, yeah, they're all here. They're not too hard to get. It's all stuff you've already collected. You just might need to go out and get more of it. So 10 each carbon weave. That is from the carbonicus materials. Right there, you need a lot, 3,150 to make 14. So you'll need to go out and refine a lot of carbon ore. And then thermal composites, we'll need just 728 to make 14 of those of just raw carbonicus ore. So again, lots of it. Make sure your system has some carbon asteroids available before you get going. I think every system should have some, or at least in the starter systems. There's some bugs right now. I know people have said that they've spawned in systems that don't have them, so you might have to like delete and start over and find a system that has one, but hopefully it's fixed. The devs were working on getting that fixed today. But basically, you'll definitely need a source of carbon ore because you're going to be making a lot of it here. And then the printed circuits, we need silicates and carbonicus materials. And then the silicates you get from refining common ore. So you'll need some common ore as well. But you can see whenever you refine that, which actually I have multiple refineries going. So yeah, you want multiple refineries because once you get to dealing with bigger chunks of refining, it's going to take more time to do those bigger lots of stuff. So having multiple of those available lets you produce several things at the same time. And yeah, those, they're already busy. Okay, this one. Yeah, so if you do the common ore, you get the carbonicus materials and silicates. If you do just the carbonicus ore, you get the materials and water. So you can get those from multiple sources of ore, but you'll definitely need all the above. So let's jump ahead. I'm going to go collect all that stuff and get manufacturing. And then once we get all that stuff gathered, we'll throw down our network. After several mining runs, we now have enough resources to produce everything we need for our first network node. So I've got 3 printers up here. They're all loaded up with all the goodies. And we'll get started. I do hope they'll add something to the game here to give a little more variety, maybe some different options to get some of these resources, because it was a bit of a grind just going back and forth getting lots of resources mining just to print this stuff out, and we're locked in until we make this. We can't make anything else higher tier. But anyway, we will load up 10 printed circuits. And 10 thermal, well, we'll make 14 thermal composites, and a production run of carbon weave, which will give us 14 of those. So we'll have a little left over, and then we'll look at maybe some stuff we could do with those leftovers after. All right, this is, yeah, this printed circuits is going to take a while, 5 minutes for it to print. So we'll jump ahead in time to when that's done. Actually, while I was waiting for that to build, I thought let's just look at what other things can the portable printer make now that we know how to make some of these kind of higher tier in between items. We can turn those into some of this stuff down here. One interesting thing you might look at doing is making another small cutting laser. So this is another mining laser. So we do have another slot. We could equip that and then mine twice as fast with 2 lasers. It is a little more energy intensive, of course, and then if you use that slot, you can't put a weapon there, but it gives you 2 mining lasers. So at this stage, if we're mostly mining, that could speed that up quite a bit. And then that uses 2 printed circuits and 3 carbon weave. So we'll have some leftover carbon weave. We'll have 4 left over. So that would be one way you could use it. Just make a couple more of those. Boom, we got another small cutting laser. If you need to make more lenses, they're pretty cheap. They just use the silicates, which you get from refining common ore. You should have a ton of that. So that's actually really cheap to make more of those. If we look at defenses or defense, we can make bulky armor plates with reinforced alloys. So we already know how to make some of those. And then also a shield generator. We'd have to do a whole other run of the carbon weave. So we'd have to get quite a bit of resources for that. But we could build a shield generator to slap on our ship to give us some defense. So a couple options. If you try to get the autocannon, which is the first weapon, it's the actual weapon is pretty easy. Common ore, metal rich ore to get you an autocannon, but you have to make ammo for it. And the ammo requires quite a bit of this heavy metals, which I haven't seen yet. I think it's a certain kind of asteroid drops those. In some of the other type of asteroid fields, you'll see different metals. So just be aware if you build that autocannon, you'll have to build ammo to go with it. But that'll allow you to start engaging, maybe fighting some of those drones and looting from them instead of just mining. Might spice it up a little bit. And then the heat exchanger and compressed coolant down here have to do with the heat system. I'm still not entirely sure how that works, so I'm not going to advise anything there other than you can make those, but I don't really know what they do. Since heat so far hasn't really been a problem, it seems to just be different at different locations, but it steadies out everywhere I go, so I'm not sure how that works just yet. But that's a brand new system they just added, so I'm sure more to come on that. All right, we'll pause and jump ahead to when we're actually ready to build our network node now. Okay, we're at 99%, almost ready to grab our printed circuits, which is kind of those you produce 14 at a time. You need a ton of resources. The printed circuits, you can make just 1 at a time, and they're not quite as resource intensive, but they do take a long time to be produced. So I just keep that in mind that they're a little bit different. But anyway, we got everything we need. Build our network node and set up our first official home base. Got quite a few of my little structures here. I guess I'll just put it right. When I'm at this point, it seems like instead of being centered on the ship, it's centered on the actual Lagrange point here. So why not? We'll just stick the network node right in the middle. Maybe it has to be in the middle or close to it. A little too close to one of our storage things. Oh, I guess we can't move it. Got to be in the middle. All right, so storage, you got to go. Cancel. And then restart. So yeah, I guess it has to be built in the middle of the point, which I guess makes sense. Start that building. And then I want to be sure and if I have any resources. That storage unit, I packed it up, but I think it had some stuff in it. Disappeared on me. Well, guess I can't do anything about that. Lesson learned right there. Oh wait, there it is. Okay, there's our cargo container. So that's got uh, what was in that portable storage, which didn't amount to a whole lot. Up real quick. Okay, back to the task at hand. We have built our network node. Check it out. All right. Now if we hit E to interact, let's see what options we have. All right, quite a bit of stuff here. Okay, this is all new to me, so I'm gonna pause here for a second and figure it out and get back right back to you. Okay, so we're gonna need to load some fuel in this thing to get it going. I went and crafted some. If you look here, the supported fuel, it's gonna show you all the different types you can load into it. D1 is the most basic. All these others are gonna be more advanced. They're gonna require more refining, more specialized resources to get those. But we do have easy access to D1, but you can see it's also the least efficient. It burns at 10 per hour versus going up here to the best kind, burns at 1.11 an hour, but also it's probably much harder to get the hold of that stuff. But let's go ahead and we'll put 100 in it just to test it out. And I guess in theory that will run it for 10 hours. Drop it in there. And basically once our network node is fired up, then it can serve as our home base, and it can also power all those other more advanced buildings that we want to have running. All right, so say start. All right, so now it is online, generating energy. We can see here in the middle, this is like its energy production and how much is being used. Right now, max capacity is 1,000 gigajoules, and we're producing 1,000, but we're not using any because we haven't built anything yet. And then we're burning some fuel. But yeah, currently just 100 fuel. We'll run it for 10 hours. And then I'm not sure if having stuff running on it will make that burn faster or if that's just a set amount. But yeah, 10 per hour seems like pretty reasonable to get us started. That's, yeah, 10 real hours for 100 fuel. Not too bad. But I'm curious, yeah, if we start building stuff, does it burn faster or is it just a flat, it's producing 1,000 gigajoules all the time no matter what? I'll have to test that out if we get something built. Now over here we see we're online generating energy. We can edit assembly. It's just changing the name, I guess. Full words. I don't know, something silly. Now I've got a little description here. So I guess you could, yeah, put whatever you want there. And then it says home base up there at the top. Okay, so now we have that up and running. And then really the next thing is we want to build one of these higher level buildings to produce some higher level stuff. And at this point in the game, it's kind of up to you where you want to go with it. I'm gonna try to get a module built for my ship to expand the cargo capacity, and just because that'll be easier to do what I want to do next, which is go traveling. But we'll get to that in a second. And then before we do anything else, let's set this as our home base. So all you do that, you just right click on it, and then you just select set as home base. And then nothing will really happen, but that'll set it as your respawn point. And so that's kind of like a choice to be made. So at this point in the game, there are several options. So I'll kind of talk about what you might want to do. Because yeah, at this point in the game, you can kind of do what you want. It's open to your choices, like what your playstyle is, what you want to accomplish. And also, it's a little bit limited right now because this is still early alpha version of the game. It is definitely different than it was in the previous builds, but I'm sure future builds a few months from now, it's going to be different again. And so it's kind of, I'm just going to show you, I've showed you the basic stuff, how to get going with the game as it is right now. I'm going to take it a couple steps forward, and then just give you a couple tips on if you want to go exploring or go find like a space station where you can get in on the market where you can buy and sell stuff. The previous build of the game you started, it was much easier to get to one of those, and um, I was buying and selling stuff pretty quickly. Where this version of the build, you're starting way out by yourself, and you're kind of just surviving on your own for a while. But you can push to go towards where a space station is, but also that's going to mean you're going to run into other players. And this game is like hardcore survival MMO, so it's like PvP all the time. So if you go where other players are, there is that element of danger. And there's also the element of you can meet people, form a corporation, join with other people too. So, you know, if you don't know people already, it might be hard to do that since this is still a very early version of the game. There's only so many people playing and they're all kind of experimenting, and it's all going to get wiped in a couple months. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. I'm just kind of playing to learn the game right now. So before I go further with building up my base here and kind of taking the path I want to choose, I was going to show you if you do want to go on one of those long journeys, you might want to do that before you even establish a network node and get your own base going. You can do so with just a minimal amount of resources. And if you say you want to go find one of those big space stations, one of those keeps, and make that be your home base and your respawn point, as opposed to being out in deep space all on your own, a few tips for that. So the easiest way to find one of those stations to start, figure out where you're going to go, if you hit M, open up your big map. Of course, there's thousands of star systems out there. This white sphere is how far we can jump at a time right now. If you come up here to this icon, you can sort out different things you see on the map. The default I had was extinct civilizations, which I don't know, doesn't really tell me much of anything right now. But if you come down here, there's geography and statistics. Open that, and then station count. If you select that one, now you'll see red dots for the solar systems where there are stations, big permanent space stations you can go to, where that's where you're going to find the markets and where you can buy stuff from the space station, and then probably encounter more players closer to those systems as well. And so if we just look around, we can see that across the whole galaxy, there's not really that many. There's maybe a couple dozen amid thousands of stars. But if we zoom in, we can see, okay, this one looks like it's probably the closest. And so you can select it, you can right click it, say set destination, and then up here, you'll get a route of which systems to jump to go there. Of course, you can also just eyeball it. Looking on the map here, if we do right click, we can move it around. We can see there's several stars in between. So it would take a few jumps. We would need to take, maybe at least 3 or 4 jumps to get over there. So that's a bit of a journey because you are pretty limited on fuel at first. You got to refine it, fill up. I'm not sure exactly how much each jump uses, but it's a pretty good chunk of my total fuel right now. So the way you can be prepared for that is, of course, refine as much fuel as you can before you start, and then also take 50 common ore with you, maybe a little bit more, but 50 minimum, just so you can build a refinery wherever you go. That way you can jump in, you can find a carbon field, and you can throw down a refinery for 50 common ore, and then you can just mine it and keep going. Just restock your fuel and keep going. I would always keep your fuel topped off before you jump, because once you leave the starting area, not every system is going to have Carbonesis, getting closer on that, Carbonesis, or the one that has water in it that you need to make a lot of D1 fuel for your ship. And so, yeah, just take as much fuel as you can, take 50 common ore, maybe a spare mining lens or 2. They don't take up very much space, just to be sure that as you go, you can mine the fuel you need on your way. And then once you get to that station, then you can kind of set up things there and figure out what you want to do. And you might be able to just buy fuel easier once you get there versus mining it all the time. But the journey could be hazardous, and especially if you jump into a system and you run out of fuel right now, you can kind of get yourself stuck if you're not prepared for that. The other thing is your heat status. Like I said, this is brand new to the game. This was just added in this build. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but one thing I can tell you is I kind of made a little error here. I didn't know until I did it, building my system here, or my base here at this L point where I'm overheated, just sitting here, because I thought I was far enough away from the star. I didn't really think about it, didn't look at it, because you can't jump. You can't do a warp jump to another system while you're overheated. So basically, I can't jump straight out of here. Not a huge deal, but You might want to set up at one of these L points that's further. I'm in one of these inner L points. I was thinking I'd be closer to all the stuff, but the downside of that is it's hotter here, at least at the L point I'm at. So I have to jump to one of these ones out on the edge to be able to go back to normal heat and then do a warp jump. And then I think I was reading people were saying that the heat can affect like the range of your warp jump as well. But I tried testing that and I didn't really see that it made a difference, but maybe it's there and it's just not clear in the UI right now. But just something to consider. Maybe put your base at a non-overheated L point to make things a little bit easier, save yourself a couple jumps. But for me, for the rest of this video, I'm just gonna expand my base a little bit. I'm gonna build a few upgrades for my ship, and then kind of round out this tutorial series, getting you through the basics, and then kind of just starting into the next tier of things you can create. What I want to do right now, I'm going to make another mining laser, or another cutting laser for my ship, to see if I can mine a little faster. If we open up, where to go, our printer. And another tip I have, thanks to one of my commenters on one of the previous videos, mentioned that you can move stuff directly between your storage and here. The trick is that I think right now it's like a bug. If you hit I here to open your inventory, it might be because this is selected or not. Sometimes I got it to work once or twice, but basically hitting I here doesn't open your inventory, but if you click here, it does open it. So, magical. Now we can access our storage as long as it's close by. It has to be within 2 kilometers for you to move stuff. So, or for you to access a storage unit. So suggest parking your storage very close to your printers and refiners so you can see it. You can access all of it at the same time. But basically, I can come here and say I want to make another small cutting laser to throw that on my reflex so I can mine twice as fast. And so can open our inventory, and I already crafted some more printed circuits. So I need 2 printed circuits. Boom, straight in. And 3 carbon weave, which I have a little left over from that first run. And then we can craft a small cutting laser, which it'll take a couple minutes to do that. And then I'll show how to equip that on my ship, and we'll go try it out, see if we can mine twice as fast. That would be cool. Another option, you could build the autocannon and some ammo and start going and attacking those drones, maybe just looting them, see what you can get from that. That's always an option too. I'm going to go with the mining option right now. One other little thing I noticed was, I didn't realize at first, I had a bunch of this salvage materials that I had looted, so that might be something you can loot as well from those drones or from wrecks. At some of the sites have like salvage you can do. This salvage material, I'm not sure if it has another use, but right now, I didn't even notice that you can refine it here to get reinforced alloy. One reinforced alloy for every 3 salvage materials, which is pretty good. Saves you on a lot of mining doing that. So I got a decent amount of that now from it, and then you can use that to make some of this other stuff we're going to make. All right, I'll pause here and jump ahead when that's done. All right, so that's done. Let's deliver it. Got a new cutting laser. Hit Alt F or click fitting over here to get our ship up where we can fill in some of these slots. And then I'm going to throw this small cutting laser into my other high energy spot, and then we'll also need to load it with a mining lens, which you can craft more of those. They're pretty small and pretty inexpensive, so easy enough to get those. Now it's loaded in, and then let's just for fun, let's go mine real quick and see what it's like. Now we see we got more. Our ship looks a little scarier with more turrets on it, but they're just cutting lasers and a hull repair thing, so it's not exactly dangerous, but it looks a little more dangerous. All right, let's go find an asteroid to mine, and let's get a little more ore. Let's see if we can do it twice as fast, just for fun. I think over here, yeah, we could use ferrous cluster, get some metal. And then I think next, I don't know if I have enough slots. I could do, you can do shield and armor, but I think if you do both of those, it will fill in those slots, and so then you can't do the hull or the cargo expander. So I might do shield instead of armor, just for, I don't know, I like the idea of having a shield. . Now let's see if we can engage both cutting lasers. Oh, we gotta get just a little closer. But I think using both, we'll see if that affects or anything else. There's a downside energy-wise to having both going. All right, so now I hit 1 and 2. I've got both of them going. Look at me go, mining twice as fast. We can see here, this white area with the little Tetris blocks, it's kind of something to do with your energy that your ship has, and so it's draining it a lot faster, having both of them going. But we're mining really fast too. We'll see if we get if we fill up our cargo before we run out of energy for running both of our lasers at the same time. Uh-oh, getting close, getting close. I don't know what happens if we run out of energy, if it just stops. Ah, just enough. So we had just enough energy to run both lasers and fill up our hold before we ran out of energy. So pretty efficient setup there. Of course, once I expand the hold to hold twice as much cargo, then you won't be able to run both of them that long unless I do some other upgrade. I'm guessing there's something you can upgrade to increase your energy, either your total you can have or how fast it recharges to overcome that. But there you go, a nice upgrade for our current mining operations. And then of course, if you're going to switch between mining, dedicated mining versus combat or doing something else, you can always switch out what modules you have loaded on your ship. All right, so I'm gonna pause here and then jump ahead, gather some more resources so we can build our assembler and maybe our shield at the same time. So here we go. We're just popping in here in between gathering some resources and refining stuff to build the next step. I would recommend while you're out mining to break up the monotony of that, because in this current build, I've found, and a lot of people are saying, agreeing with the sentiment that there's a lot of mining to kind of get from ground zero to making some better stuff. To break that up, I would recommend checking out these other sites in your system. You'll probably have a few. There are things like debris fields, installation wreckage. Check those out because you can swoop in and pick up some materials pretty easy. A little bit of ore here, that's not really going to help us much, but you can get like these salvage materials that you can make into the alloys. That's a useful building material, so not a bad idea to check these and grab up whatever's there. And you might also find some better, higher tier stuff too. That's hard, that takes more time to make. But if you check out these, kind of loot these sites, you can get some of that stuff easy without having to work for it, really. All right, now back at base, I have gathered up all the materials needed to build our assembler. I'm gonna go for the bigger cargo hold first because I feel like that'll make mining more efficient, and so I can mine stuff a little faster, and then that'll let me build the other things a little faster. That's my thought on that. I also have enough. I could build the Shipyard S, that lets me build a couple other. I think there's 4 types of Corvettes you can build right now there, but current Corvette is fine, so I'm not gonna invest in that just yet. And we'll stick our assembler over here behind the printers, I suppose. Get that building. It takes 4 minutes for it to build, so I'll pause and jump ahead once that's done, and then we'll check it out, see what we need to get the bigger cargo hold. Okay, so we've got our assembler finished. Let's open it up and try it out. Okay, so we can see we've got the more in-depth interface here since it's connected to our network node. And then let's see, okay, wow, a lot, 87 things that we can make in the assembler. Big, huge list of stuff. Let's see. Looks like we can make kind of some of the things that we can make in the small printer, but we can also make higher tiers of a lot of stuff. So the different types of armor, higher tiers of it. Here's, okay, cargo grid. That's what I was kind of looking for to expand our cargo capacity. We can also make some, looks like some more engines, some higher tiers of weapons, different types of weapons we couldn't make before, different types of shields, all kinds of stuff. So a lot of, once you get your assembler built, a lot of options. Oh, sorry there. I mean, my house is being invaded by small children and dogs barking, so I'll have to wrap this video up. A couple things we could build here. A couple notable items like a medium cutting laser, large cutting laser. I don't know if I need that or not, but could help us to mine more efficiently. If that'll fit on our ship, we might want to check the info on it to make sure. Come in here. If you look at this screen, it's kind of giving you information about manufacturing it. But if you right click in here, I don't know why there's two different things here, but that might just be a bug. If you go in here, you can see the attributes of the actual item. If you kind of click into it again and see, I don't know if it says in here what type of ship go on. It goes in a high power slot. Yeah, so I think we could build that and put it on our current ship too if we wanted to. One thing I think I talked about making the shield or doing the cargo or shield, but for the sake of time, let's make something a little bit quicker. I saw in here in alphabetical order. Oh, here we go. Afterburner 2. So if you remember, whenever I built the Reflex, I stole the Afterburner 1 from the Wind, our starting shuttle, but it's underpowered for our current ship. So we'll just, I think, yes, I got some thermal composites left. Posits? I don't know. And so some of these things I noticed, the resource requirements for a lot of them are pretty simple. There's stuff we already have. There's some things that do require resources I have not come across yet that you might have to go, and that's where you'll have to go start exploring other systems beyond the starter region to find some of that stuff. But a lot of the things basically require the same materials we already have, just more of them. But this one just requires one of these guys. So we can manufacture it. Oh wait, the assembler is not online. We need to refuel. It's been a day since I started this. We need to refuel our network node so we can get going on that. So I'll throw some more fuel in here. Again, since I'm just kind of running it a little bit this day, we'll just throw 100 fuel in. Think about it. Start her up. And then, all right, so our network is up and running for another 10 hours. Switch back to the assembler. And find that Afterburner Mark II right there. Let's produce that. Oh, it's not online. Okay, maybe now we're online. Okay, yeah, so I had to click over there to turn it on. So now it's producing for a minute and a half. Now I'm curious to look back at our network and see if that changes anything on our chart here in the middle. All right, so now we're using 200 gigajoules. Looks like our time remaining is still ticking down, same as before. And we can see, okay, how much energy we are using. So right now we've got more than enough energy for producing 1,000 currently, and running our assembler uses 200. So we could have a few things running at the same time, but as you can see, it would kind of cap off how much stuff you could have running at the same time for these higher tier buildings. And oh, down here we have summary, so we got 200 gigajoules for the assembler, and it's turned on. And so that might be like a management thing of which buildings you're running, what you're doing, especially when you got longer term projects running. And then I don't know if later maybe there's ways to expand that capacity to have more stuff going, but here at the basic level, it's not a concern yet. But it could be a limit later if you got a lot of stuff going on. Come back over here. It's almost done. While we're waiting, kind of looking at the list of other things we could make. Oil guns, lots of different types of armor, plasma, disintegrator, all sounds cool. I'm guessing those things might use energy instead of like the autocannon, you have to make ammo for it. I wonder if those weapons need some kind of energy, like ammo source, or if they just use up energy. Maybe your concern is more you're gonna run out of energy faster. You can also build like a shield restorer to make your shields recharge faster. Different things like that. Entanglers to try to like catch other people. We're not going to be that vicious yet. All right, so our Afterburner 2 is done. Gonna open up our fitting screen again, and then swap out the Afterburner, which has max velocity 435. Let's swap in Afterburner 2, which is what this ship is supposed to have. So it's kind of cool. You can equip the Mark 1 Afterburner, but it's inadequate really for this ship. And now our max velocity is 2,524. So a huge boost if we want to go faster, especially, maybe if we get into combat or something, being able to move like 10 times faster almost, maybe not 10 times, but a lot faster than the Afterburner Mark 1. So a nice little upgrade for us there. Now, like I said, I got to cut this video short. Got real life stuff going on with friends and family coming over. But I hope this one will help you get to like the next tier of buildings. You can build all that other stuff, same concepts. Just understanding you got to build it here in your network node. You got to power it. You got to turn it on. So a little more commitment to get to that tier of stuff, and then go out and gather all the resources. I really hope they change the carbon weave is killing me because you have to get so much of the carbonaceous material to make that carbon weave, and you need it for so many things that I want to build. So hoping they turn that down, maybe make it a little easier to make some of that stuff without endless mining trips. But again, this is very early build of the game, so it's all subject to change over time. And once I get like I got the second mining laser, it makes it go faster. Get that cargo hold expansion, you can haul more in one trip. All that stuff will get easier over time, and that's just kind of part of the progression of the game. But thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. I'll probably do, I'm thinking, another video as I keep playing, and maybe do some combat, go exploring, see what's out there, see where the game takes me. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.